Detroit versus New York. Preseason, game one in the books. Detroit falls to the Giants 14-3 in a very rainy and wet game. Detroit's offense was not able to muster many sustained drives down the field, looked very sloppy. And we'll get started with Nate Sudfeld, in that QB2 quarterback competition with Hendon Hooker. Sudfeld, who didn't play last year, was very inconsistent out there. You throw 24 passes and you don't even have 100 yards. It doesn't look great. He took some unnecessary sacks, and he could not hit the receivers in stride. And it was pretty disappointing watching this unit just kind of flail for the entire first half. Even the running game wasn't great early on. Not a lot of holes opened up on the offense. And so we'll jump right into second half, because from an offensive standpoint, that's the half that I can kind of analyze a little bit more and find some positive takeaways. When Hendon Hooker came into the game, a guy we drafted 2 years ago, coming off a significant injury, did not have an opportunity to play at all his rookie year. This is the first live action that Hendon Hooker's been able to see since he played in college. And there were some positive takeaways. The guy has some mobility. This is something we haven't seen in Detroit from the QB position in a very long time. So it was exciting watching him run around. He has not lost a step. He still has the wheels, but he was inconsistent throwing the ball as well, too. These are some things he's going to have to shore up, especially if he wants Coach Campbell to feel confident with him being that QB2. He wasn't very accurate when he looked downfield, and we know he has a strong arm, but having a strong arm means nothing if you can't put it into the pocket for the receiver. He did settle in. He had a couple solid throws where, he hit a couple receivers on some short intermediate routes, hit a running back coming out of the backfield off to the left, but he didn't put it in front of him to have allow the running back to catch it in stride. He kind of had to turn to the side and catch it, which, is the difference of, a few more yards that he would have potentially been able to get. We saw him lower his shoulder and take it to a linebacker, which was phenomenal to see. But I also don't want my quarterback taking too many hits, especially one that's coming off of an injury. I'd like to see him, and that's always going to be an adjustment from a guy that has rushing ability, is knowing when to slide, knowing when to try to get that extra yard. But I need Hendon Hooker to develop as a passer. Now, hopefully we never have to see him during the season because Goff stays healthy, but in this league, you never know what's going to happen. And I would much rather have some confidence in our number two guy to be able to, sustain a drive or two if Goff ever has to come out for a period of time. Let's go to Sione Vaki, our running back, our drafted as a safety / running back. And the Lions like him in that RB role. And I can see why, because the guy is shifty. 4 carries, showed his ability to make a man miss in the open field. And that's impressive. I can see this guy certainly jumping up to RB3 in the depth chart behind Gibbs and Montgomery, and I would feel confident in that. We saw last year when Gibbs and Montgomery were both out, we had to rely on our third-string running back, and although we were still able to pull the game out, I'd like to have a guy that I'm a little bit more confident in being able to go to 15 and 20 times a game. And he's gonna, he has to work on his hands as well too, because we certainly incorporate our running backs into the passing game. Now let's jump to the defense. This is the biggest takeaway for me for this game. We saw Terry and Arnold get a few series in this game, and we saw Ennis Rakestraw both playing on the outside. Now, we knew Terry and Arnold would be an outside cornerback opposite Carlton Davis when the season starts, but Ennis Rakestraw had been playing slot nickel cornerback in training camp, splitting with the Meek Robertson. So this was unique to see him out there. Now, granted, Ennis Rakestraw played outside cornerback in college, but it looked like they were going to try to transition him to the nickel because we already had 2 guys that we assume would be the starters for us for this season. But Ennis Rakestraw matched up with Neighbors and a couple other receivers. He held his own. Not only did he hold his own, the guy was in there back pocket. He's stuck with these guys. Neighbors, I don't even think was targeted in this game. And so it was impressive to see, because we saw Neighbors was cooking our defensive backs in the joint practices both days. And so, I didn't want to see that happen out here, whether it was DeVito or whoever was throwing him the ball. I didn't want to see him just breaking free. Now, what I did notice with him and Terry Arnold, who also played a great game as well, they were up on the line in true press man coverage. Whereas when we had Jeff Okudah, unfortunately, Jeff Okudah lost confidence along the way and was, consistently 5 or 6 yards back, afraid that the wide receiver would blow by him. And unfortunately, he would give up passes, in front of him consistently. So I like the confidence of Rakestraw and Arnold. And I think this is going to help us a ton moving forward in the season. Broderick Martin, very impressive at the D tackle position. This is a guy that we drafted, as a project. DT, big body guy, but a little bit out of shape. Now, over this offseason, this guy's put in the work, and you can tell that his body has shaped up a lot more than it was last season. He's getting some mentorship from DJ Reader. That was one of the first things Reader said he wanted to do when he got here to Detroit, was get his hands on Martin, and it showed. Broderick Martin was able to bat down a couple of passes. I loved how he was able to push the offensive guard, back into the quarterback's pocket. But not only that, he would push him back, disengage, and be able to get his hands on the running back multiple times coming out of the backfield as the first man to assist in that tackle. That's something that will earn him a spot in this rotation, because we have a pretty deep defensive line, especially from a run stuffing perspective. And if Martin can add to that, especially with the loss of a guy like Kaminsky, I would love to see him factor in. I can only imagine what it would look like in a 5-2 set with Broderick Martin, Lynn McNeil, and DJ Reader. I don't think anybody could run on that line. Not that they could run on as much last year. So there's a lot of questions, of how this lineup is going to, unfold. Who's going to be the starters? Who's going to be the first guys, in the rotation? But overall, this was positive. I wasn't looking for a team to win, for the Lions to win. I wasn't looking for crazy stats. I just wanted to see some impressive, snaps, and I was able to see that from some guys. And I'd like to see a little bit more moving forward. But overall, Siani Vaki and Martin, Rakestraw, and Arnold, those were some very positive things that I took away from this game. So on to week 2, and hopefully they'll get some more snaps and we'll be able to uncover a few more things. But I'm excited. The preseason is here. All right, let me know what you guys think in the comments.